Hello, it's Dan here, and today I'm going to be making a video and we are going to be discussing the subject of early sowing. So the subject of early sowing, early planting is quite an interesting one in my opinion anyway. So I'll just tell you what I'm doing today. So I'm going to be planting some beans here and something else a little later on. So what we've got here is some multi-purpose compost. So this is, I purchased this from Lidl, which is a supermarket here in the UK and other countries as well. Grandiol multi-purpose compost, now peat free. So I'm going to be planting some runner beans into this cell tray here. So some people might consider it a little bit early for a climate such as is here, Southeast UK, USDA zone 8B, where we could still get frosts up until the end of May time. So by the time these seeds are ready to plant out, or seedlings as they will be then are ready to plant out, we're still at risk of frost. So why am I planting these now? Well, one reason why I'm doing this is simply because I like to mix up my gardening a little bit. I like to go sort of beyond the norm in terms of when I do things and sometimes how I do things, and I am willing to make informed risks with my gardening. So I wouldn't do something completely sort of outlandish, shall we call it that, such as trying to grow marrows outside here in the middle of winter, but I am prepared to have a go at early sowings of something such as climbing French beans and runner beans here. So by the time these are ready to plant out, which will probably be in a month, 5 weeks or so, we will be in late April, early May, still at risk of frost. So will I be planting them out then? Well, the chances are I will, and the reasoning for this is we may or may not get frosts that late or at that time, but it leaves me plenty of time between now and then to do some other planting, so I can have like a successional planting out and might end up with a nice early crop of runner beans, climbing French beans. So that can be a very good thing to do. So just filling this up here like so. So I'll show you how I'm going to be planting runner beans into this cell tray here. So a few years ago now, I had some good results planting runner beans on the 28th of March. So 27th of March now, so we're only a day before that. So here we go. I'll show you what I've got here. So this is a variety called Scarlet Emperor. So I'm also taking a risk here because its recommended sow-by date is 2023. So of course we are 2 years in advance of that. But these are from Wilco's. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to plant 2 of these in each one. So you can see here, this once again is an informed risk using older seeds. This is one reason why I'm going to be putting 2 in each cell tray. And all I do is literally just put them in like this. So why would you wish to go against conventional gardening wisdom? So I'll give you a real life example here. When I was gardening full time, a few years ago now, I did a load of work for an older lady who grew up during World War II. Parents grew their own veg, fruit, etc. Her and her husband did it their whole life, and they sort of went very much with the conventional gardening wisdom of planting dates. Nothing wrong with that at all, tried and tested. Their next door neighbour, on the other hand, was a much younger man who went from a place of not having a garden to having a rather large garden, and didn't really get his planting dates correct in some things when it comes to conventional gardening wisdom. However, I remember he had things such as runner beans and marrows planted out the end of April, maybe even mid-April, where there was still risk of frost. Actually turned out that year his yields were a lot better than mine and the older lady, who we very much went with conventional gardening wisdom. So the actual sort of, sometimes it can actually pay to take a little bit of a risk, as long as you are making it, you know, through an educated risk, not doing anything completely silly. And you've also got to acknowledge that, you know, your results may not be as good as if you sort of went with the tried and tested. So here we go. So this is my early planting of Scarlet Emperor runner beans. So here we are in the polytunnel. Got my tag here and I write the date on it, so 27th of March, and I just write what it is. I always recommend people label really what they're growing, because if you don't, it's very easy to forget. So I put the variety Scarlet Emperor and runner beans on there as well. So that's going to go here. We'll get into this growing method in a moment. We'll go into that in a little bit more detail. So now we will plant the Cobra climbing French beans. So I was very impressed actually with this variety of Cobra climbing French beans. I grew them a few years ago and they really were quite long, probably about that long. And they were nice and easy to chop up, nice and easy to pick. Just a very good variety all in all, and they tasted great of course as well. So once again, all we're going to do is get these out now. These states on the packet are to be planted by December 2025, so we're in there on these. So once again, I am going to be putting 2 in these. So presuming 2 of these germinate, the same with the runner beans, I'll literally just pick up the whole thing when this is grown into, like, you know, 2 little plants coming out with a root structure. I'll just pick it up and then I'll plant it out. So once again, these will more than likely be ready to plant out before risk of frost has passed. So of course that is once again another risk. Maybe I'll look at protecting these or the runner beans with net curtains or fleece or something to protect them. I might not. Now, one thing I am a believer in is I'm actually going to be germinating these outside in the polytunnel. So hopefully they'll gain a bit more resilience as opposed to what they would get if I germinated them inside under warmer temperatures, where they could be weaker and a bit more leggy. So this is one thing I'm a believer in. So once again, I've got my tag date on there, 27th of 3rd, Cobra climbing French beans. So I'm going to be germinating these in here. Now this is not ideal watering these because I've happened to have lost my rose somewhere for the end of the watering can, but never mind, just enough to give them some water like that. So a good temperature to germinate runner beans at is actually about 20 degrees C, which is, oh dear, what's that, 68, 70 Fahrenheit, something like that. So we're still getting rather low temperatures at the moment during the night. It's probably, you know, we've got some quite nice warm daytime temperatures of around just under 20 degrees C, so that's quite good, but still getting cold at night and still at risk of frost. So what I'm going to be doing is actually, they're growing them or germinating them in this polystyrene container, and I'm going to be putting that over the top like that. So that'll really help the warmth to stay in, the insulation of the polystyrene, plus this perspex over the top, and of course the sunlight can get through. So that's really good. So I'm expecting these to germinate in probably, I'd say 3 weeks, something like that. So of course there is a risk with this. I've explained this already, so I think you get the idea. If you want to do this, go ahead and do it. Make sure it's informed, and even if it doesn't go according to plan, you've still got plenty of time to sow both of these. You know, climbing French beans and runner beans, I've sown them before at the end of July and still got a crop. So you really do not need to be in a rush. And if you want to have a little bit of experimentation, you can maybe try something like I've done here. So with regards to the subject of early sowing, I've made plenty of videos on things that you well and truly can sow, plant early, etc. At least in a climate similar to here, even whilst frosts are still occurring, and there are plenty of things you can still plant out even if frosts are still occurring. Examples of this are certain varieties of cabbage grown for this earlier time of year. You've also got, so you've got cabbage, broccoli, otherwise known as Calabrese and cauliflower and Brussels sprouts as well. So I've actually made detailed videos on all 4 of those, so you can check them out. I'll link them in the description box for you below. And also aubergines are good to plant early. Once again, I made a video on them as well in quite a bit of detail. Chilies, melons, guess what? There's videos on them as well. So I'll stick a load of those. I'll link a load of those in the description box below as well. So if you've got time, check them out. And of course, I've made quite a lot of videos now, over 1,000, over 10 years of YouTubing. So there's quite a bit of information on my channel that will probably help you. So if you do have time, go through my videos list and hopefully you'll find plenty of things in there that can help you. And tomatoes as well, I planted those at this time of year. Once again, guess what? I made a video on that as well. You'll find that in the description box. But yeah, take your time, have a look through the videos. Not just my videos, other videos as well, of course, on other channels. Even videos or programs you see on the television. Have a look at them as well. And really make an informed decision and do gardening how it suits you. You don't necessarily have to go by conventional rules, as long as you are making informed decisions and have done plenty of your own research. So I'm going to be planting some potatoes now. Now these are variety Condor, which I grew last year. So regarding traditional planting dates for seed potatoes, it's generally done around the Easter weekend. At least that was what sort of a lot of traditional gardeners did and probably still do. So this year, if I remember correctly, those dates are between the 18th and the 21st of April. So of course, being on the 27th of March, we are still a bit earlier than that. But I've had good results planting potatoes. Quite often I planted potatoes actually in February and had good results as well. In fact, I remember when I had the first allotment, or I didn't have an allotment at that time, but I actually shared it with, helped someone else with theirs. There was a chap there, and what he did was he actually used to plant first early potatoes, otherwise known as determinate potatoes, on New Year's Day, and he was eating, you know, a nice crop of new potatoes when most other gardeners certainly weren't. So he used to protect them by growing them in a cold frame. But yeah, there really are lots of things you can do. So what I'm going to be doing is, this is some beautiful, I'll just show you what I've got here, some homemade compost. There we go. Look at that, absolutely gorgeous that is. So I'm going to be growing them in this container here. I'll show you the way in which I'm going to be doing this. Once again, guess what? Many of you long-term viewers and people who watched my last video will be fed up with me saying this, but I've got videos on how to make your own compost. So if you want to make something of this beauty for your own garden or your allotment, find one of them videos and look at it. It shows you how to do it, and it also proves it works because I've shown you what I've grown in that very compost all in one video. So there we are. Here we are, seed potato on that side, like that. And what we can do is just put one more in. In fact, we'll go a bit more than that. Right, hey. And we're going to put one in there like so. Definitely worth making your own compost, even if you do it on a very small scale. Very rewarding, and of course you can build up your own supply of compost. It can save you money, and most importantly it will enrich your garden or your allotment, and of course you can cut down on your waste, because if you're using your sort of own methods of dealing with it, you don't have to put it out for the bin men to collect, etc., you know, grass cuttings, etc. So there we go. I'm just going to put that in like that. Now you're probably asking me, why am I filling it right up when I should just fill this up just above where I put the last seed potato? The reason why I'm doing this is because I'm expecting this to go down a little bit and, you know, go down lower. So what I'll do when the shoots come up, I'll then cover up again. So if I wanted to, if I was in a colder area or I wanted to be extra careful, once again I could put this in the polytunnel, but I'm not going to bother with that. I'm just going to basically put it down here. There it is. And that is where this is going to stay now until I end up harvesting them when I want to. I think this variety is ready in about 20 weeks. So what's that, 5 months? March, April, May, June, July, August. So I should be harvesting that around late August time. Very interesting. Hope you enjoyed that video and it's given you a bit of an idea, maybe a bit of inspiration to go outside the norm a little bit. But I have put it over to you very clearly, but when you plant things outside of what is recommended for your area, then you are at risk of it not working. I mean, you're always at risk of gardening not working, but by doing things like this, you are increasing it a little bit, but then of course you could end up with a really nice early crop. Another example could be, let's say, for example, these runner beans. Now, runner beans don't like to go over about 25 degrees C really, so that's about 77 degrees Fahrenheit. So if I plant these early and get them out and they get through, then they grow, and I get the crop before some very warm weather comes, or it goes over 25 or so degrees C, which can actually be a bit more detrimental to them, then you know, I could actually be at an advantage. So you understand where I'm coming from. So I'm not going to waffle anymore because you know what you're doing now, don't you? Check out the videos I've mentioned. Let me know what you think about this video. Thank you very much for bearing with me. There was a period of time where I didn't make many videos and I had a few months of not making YouTube videos where I was sorting out other things. But I'm back to YouTube now. And all being well, I said I was going to be making a video every 2 weeks, but it's less than a week since I made my last one. So the plan here is to just keep making videos whenever I feel like it, which at the moment, the motivation is certainly there. Thank you very much. See you in the next video.